Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Ratitude Podcast. I am really excited to welcome our guest here. His name is Gavin Topp, and I got to tell you how I discovered him because it's only been about a week or so. And just on my Facebook feed, I get this notice that this guy, a former boxing champion in Australia, has started a men's program called Man Alive. And I go, I wonder why that popped up on my Facebook feed. Because remember, everything is always happening for you or from you, not to you, right? So I click on this thing to see what's this dude doing, because I have this idea that I'm going to work with men in 2025. So I want to see what he's doing. And so I click on it, watch a little video, and I go, this might be something that my son and I can do. And so I sent it to my son. He usually isn't into anything I do. You know, I've tried to take him to Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza and all the things I'm into, and it's dad's thing. So I wasn't expecting anything. But a few minutes after I sent it, he goes, "This sounds really interesting, Dad." And I go, Oh, I'm really excited. If he thinks it's interesting, let's get him signed up and quickly. And so I sent him back a note, said, "You want to do it together?" And he goes, "Yes." So we signed up. And then, I'm thinking we're going to get this little program. We're going to work through it. I got to, make sure that he's accountable and I'm accountable. But what happens is Gavin Topp himself calls us up and talks to us. And I go, whoa, this dude is really cool. I'm going to learn a lot of great things from him. Then I go, okay, he's this famous boxing champion in Australia. He wouldn't be interested in a podcast for me. And I sent him a note and he says yes. And now he's in Malta. He's coming to us live from Malta. And I'd like to welcome Gavin Topp. You're my hero now, creating Men's Alive programs all over the world. Welcome, Gavin.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for investing in yourself. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah. Now, tell us about your boxing career first, because in these podcasts, I want to see how your mind developed. And so I want to go back there. You had a really good story that I saw in one of your videos about how this all came about. Could you share that with our audience?
Well, I've only got one story.
That's all you need.
I suppose there's kind of like a story how I got into boxing. Then there's an 18-year boxing career, and then there's been post-boxing. So so I suppose in short, I think as boys, we all long for a couple of things. We long for an adventure to live. We long for initiation and validation. And I suppose, my dad was amazing, but he's got some stuff, the same as I've got stuff. I've got 7 children, we're all walking with a limp to some extent. So I suppose, what happened to me was I was trying to prove myself, test myself, and ended up, being humiliated and embarrassed and let down by other males. And, my dad eventually took me to a boxing gym. And that's kind of where I suppose I got that encouragement. And I got to do something with my dad, because my dad was a fighter also. But he got sidetracked the same as a lot of men. But I remember my very first, when I was at 16, my dad took me to the gym. I met a guy, Wilfred Jensen, and at that time he was the current Australian champion. And man, I just idolised that guy. I just loved the way he spoke, the way he walked, how he done his gloves up. I had a man crush before man crushes even existed, But something was birthed in me. Particularly through the process of that warrior being developed in me, and how really how it's done is being leveraged through other men. We can't do this masculine journey on our own. We're not designed to do it on our own, but probably what really, I wanted to be the Australian champion, and 10 years down the track, I got to live my dream. But there was a lot of trials in between. There was a lot of character development that was needed in me, because particularly when I remember hearing, because a gentleman, really one of my first mentors basically said to me in not as it probably the way that I'm saying it, but he meant the same thing. It's not about having the belt. It's more about who I need to become as a man, to become a champion, to then, grab hold of the belt. And then really, that's what inspired me, because if I honestly look back, I was never competitive. I never felt like I had to compete against another man. I never felt I had to beat anyone. What really inspired me was who I needed to become on the inside to really be the champion. I remember a mentor saying to me, you either compete or you create. Where it was always about creating something in me that hadn't been done before. So I'm not sure which story, you wanted, but man, inside every man is a dream, a purpose, a mission. We're designed for something great. And I suppose, particularly when I finished boxing, that's probably what I realised was every man has that, but most men don't get an opportunity to develop themselves to actually be in a position where they can actually go after their purpose.
Yeah, and tell us what your purpose is now. I read it on your site, but tell us what your purpose is.
It's funny because I think we have dreams that are in us. We have big ones and we have small ones, and really the way that I love to really get men to ask themselves questions. In short, my purpose is, man, to follow through with what's in my heart. And that's every man's purpose. But what we need is to understand our dreams, the things, our desires that are at a deep level, to see why we're built a certain way. Because we're all different, but uniquely the same. It's kind of, it's uncanny, really. If you've got a set of nuts, you're born to fight. But we do that, we develop that in many different ways. But my purpose is, man, that every male would know there is a rite of passage to be taken. So that he would have the courage to follow his heart. My purpose is that man, every wife would know the love of a husband. Every daughter would know what a real man looks like. Every child would be inspired by their fathers. But I go through it in a man life experience over 50 weeks where men, some things are taught and some things are caught. And a lot of men, as they're going through the process, they just catch it, the thing that's been in them their whole life, So I don't know. Does that answer any questions?
Yeah. Now, you said some things are taught and some things are caught. So for you, how did that work? How did this passion that you've got to now change and help and inspire men, where did that come from? Did you catch it, or did you get that taught to you?
No, I caught it. In short, because there's so many things, so many avenues I could go down. But I think for a lot of men, and I'm believing a lot of men are going to hear what we're talking about, but I think a lot of men, quite often, our purpose is birthed through pain, through hardship. Because in the DNA of every man is a warrior. And when we understand that we do have what it takes, and we start to develop that through a rite of passage, through a group of men. I'm sure you've heard it being said, it takes a tribe, a village, a community of men to actually develop a man's character. But when we understand our purpose comes out of those hardships, man, that's really when we come alive.
How did that happen for you, Gavin? How did that happen? How did you catch this? Were you just kind of like walking down the street and all of a sudden you get this light bulb and go, oh, here's what I need to do?
Well, I think it's a series of things. You get signs in life. I had a couple of near-death experiences. I had a couple of, there was something in me that was unique, I suppose, to me. But in saying that, when I say unique to me, it was unique how it played out. But that sense of being a warrior and that sense of adventure, that sense of passion is actually in every man. But how it played out for me, well, I remember being, I got beat up really bad. When I say really bad, it probably wasn't that bad, but what it did to my inside was bad. So, that birthed something in me, it birthed, I suppose, an anger, a determination. So through going through a rite of passage, I could really use those, because some people, they're flaws. If they're not used correctly, they can be flaws in your character. But used correctly, they can be strengths. Whereas a strength, I could use that in business. See, one of the best things that my dad ever taught me was a business that takes no inventory usually goes broke. And what my father would do, growing up, he was buying and selling businesses from takeaway food shops to service stations to caravan parks to pubs. So he had a knack for buying businesses that were nearly done. And he'd renovate them, get the clients back. And what happened to me, I ended up in a rehab centre. And one of my first mentors said to me, similar to my father, but he said, most men don't take an inventory of themselves. So they end up there. So it's an inward job. Particularly when I take men through our mentorship program, I know you know what I'm talking about. I know the listeners know what I'm talking about. I'll ask a question to a group of men for 20 men, and I'll get 20 different answers. So a mentor said to me a long time ago, it's not about having the right, it's to get the right answers, you need to start with the right questions. But most people have got this perfectionism thing. They want to do it right every time, but it's not possible. But when you start with the right question, then in a series of questions, you end up with the right answer for you, not for anyone else. And that's how we start to really find our purpose.
I want to go to the story of your post-boxing career. Like, how did you go from I'm now retired as a boxer to what you're doing now? Was there some stuff in between, or how did that process work for you?
Well, when I was, as a professional fighter, I had a couple of, they were relatively close men commit suicide. And I can remember vividly being at the grave because one of them I really, really looked up to. I regret not telling him, but he was actually a mentor. But I was always just hanging off him at any opportunity to spend time with him. And I remember being at the gravesite and picking up some dirt, throwing on the box. And I thought, if it can happen to him, it can happen to me. I thought, life is too short. So I actually made a personal oath. I talk about it in my books, particularly the Rite of Passage book. I talk about making a personal oath. And the oath that I made at that point was, I'm only ever going to do what I love doing. Unless my heart is in it, I ain't doing it. Life's too short. And since then, I found out unless my heart is engaged in it, I'm probably not meant to be doing it. It's probably for somebody else's dream. But that's kind of, so I promised myself I was only going to do what I love. So when I retired as a fighter, I'm only going to do what I love doing. And I've always been in business and so forth. So I started helping so many men with this Rite of Passage. It was so many, it turned into a business. And that was when I lived on the Gold Coast. So I already had a boxing gym. So I basically just started to enroll men for a 10-week boxing program. But the qualifier was that they'd never had a fight. So imagine, Rob, age from 14 to 70. So imagine if I said to you, Rob, all right, you've never had a fight, and I don't know whether you have or not. I said to you, you're going to fight in 10 weeks at the local casino in front of 1,000 people. And the qualifier is you've never had a fight. So then what happens is, who do I need to become as a man to get up in front of 1,000 people and give my best? And particularly when you don't even know what your best is, I think we should find out.
Yeah.
And that's where self-esteem, really stems from. knowing what you got, not being what's the word? A pretender, faker. So I suppose I did that, and what happened was, over a 10-year period, with over 1,000 men going through this 10-week program, men started to reach out to me all around Australia. And because, imagine if I say a man's having a fight at the local casino, he's never fought before, and he tells his mates what he's doing, it's like people started flying in from all around Australia. And people were saying, bring it to Melbourne, bring it to Sydney. People were saying, bring it to New Zealand, because there's always a lot of Kiwis, would fly over. And so that's when what happened was, I ended up writing that first little book, The Rite of Passage for the Modern Man, all about who you needed to become to step through those ropes and to live a life of adventure, really, and what does success actually mean? So that's kind of how and in 2019, people were reaching out from everywhere. Now, I sold a couple of franchises and started putting it in different parts, but it just wasn't hitting the mark. So then we put that first book online, go to gavintopp.com, and then people just started reaching it out. So then I suppose the same thing started to happen with that 10-week program, because men started coming back every year. But then some men come for the 10 weeks and just stayed for a couple of years. Because every time I went through 10 weeks, I've got this thing that every time we did it, we had to make it better. All of a sudden, you spend 10 weeks with another 24 men that were just extraordinary. Obviously, you learn a few more things. You do that 50 odd times, and each time you improve it a couple of percent, it was just extraordinary. But as I said, what started to happen was men started to just come and stay. So then when I put it online, that 10-week program, and it was not about boxing, it was about who I needed to become as a man to fulfill on my dream, my purpose. So then the same thing happened. Now I made the Man Alive experience, the 12-month mentorship. Because, the whole world operates under 90-day cycles. There's seasons, You can't plant a seed and reap a harvest in the same season, So that's where, and then we've got men, we've just got dreams coming true. Basically, men finding their purpose and then having the courage to actually start to live it.
Yeah.
Which is extraordinary.
It is awesome what you're doing. And I just started the first day of the program. So for our audience, could you tell us a little bit about what the Man Alive program actually is?
What you're doing, Rob, is the Man Alive ebook. You go to gavintopp.com, okay? So that's a 21-day program, okay? Whereas it's a short story and then it's about an action, because the masculine journey is about taking action. Sure, there's got to be some theory, but without the action, well, the result that you spin in your wheels. So as you go through the 21 days, the Man Alive ebook, what will happen is it'll motivate you and then encourage you to take an action. And look within, look without. In many cases, it'll ask you maybe to do things or ask questions probably you haven't had an answer for. So it's going to get you to have a look on the inside. So that's kind of the 21 days. But then a lot of men go, man, this is amazing. And then jump onto the Man Alive experience, which is the 12-month mentorship, which is it's phenomenal. I mean, I think about when we had a boxing gym and run that 10-week program, it was in one city. Okay, I was amazed. I was honored when men would come from different suburbs, to do it. Or then they started coming from interstate. And now, we've got men doing our programs in 25 countries. It's extraordinary. It's phenomenal.
Now, did you see this at the start, that this is how it was going to explode? Was that your vision?
Great question. Because, one thing that I teach, and eventually men catch it if they, as their mind starts to open up, is that, you have a dream. And this is where most men let themselves down, let their families down, is that they have a dream, a vision. And what they do is they go to strategy far too quick. And because they don't know how to do it, they think, oh, maybe it's not for me. And we get told by people with a limiting belief, say, oh, you're nothing but a dreamer. But in actual fact, when you have a dream that you don't know how to do, that's correct. We have what we call a dream test, And one of the questions is, with your dream, do you know how to do it? Yeah. And if the answer is yes, you know how to do it, well, you're thinking way too small. Mm-hmm. So the correct answer is, man, I don't know how to do this, So it's like, who do I need to become as a man? Who's the man I actually need to grow into?
Yeah.
But when you do that, and then you go on that journey with a group of men who support you, encourage you, won't let you off, They say I don't know what your dictionary says, but they say, that's a hypocrite, saying one thing and then doing another. Yeah, so that's what it's about. It's about having the courage to follow your heart, but it starts with having the courage to look inside.
Okay, so your process is that you've got to figure out who do you need to become to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish, right?
Well, I don't know that you need to figure out. That's probably, I hear what you're saying, and most men would probably, but do you know what? It's actually already in there. You don't need to figure it out.
Okay.
You just need to start with the right questions and look in the right places.
Okay, so what are some of the questions that you would ask?
Well, like I said, when you get this vision, we go through a dream. When you start to understand you've had dreams in your heart your entire time, all of your life, they're being put there for a reason. So when you start to answer questions, like I said, do I know how to do it? But most people get around it wrong because they don't know how to do it, they back off. But if you don't know how to do it, but it's in there, go for it. Another question is that I think encourages a lot of people is, do others benefit from who you're becoming through this process? Because if others don't benefit, well, you end up pretty self-absorbed and pretty self-centered. But when you see the people around you benefiting, well, then you start to build a culture that not just supports you, but everyone around you flourishes. that's how we build teams in companies. But when you build that for your purpose and everyone else's purpose, like one of my oaths, because you create oaths to fulfill it, so you can't let yourself down, you can't let others down. But one of my oaths is to have the courage to follow my heart, but to show my children that dreams can come true. Which means, man, I'm going full tilt. I'm talking about. That's why we're actually over here in the Mediterranean. It was, my wife's dream to spend a season, in Malta, when we were actually in Gozo here, one of the islands. It was her dream to live in a house that's a couple of 100 years old. The culture and the history is amazing. So we wanted to do something we haven't done before. We've had all my 7 children here. It's extraordinary. I'm saying to my kids, and to the men in the group, everyone will listen. Life is an epic adventure or it's not. And when we say it's not, it's not. So you choose, man. If your life's not an epic adventure, what the heck are you doing?
So you're on an epic adventure right now. Do you have other epic adventures already lined up for you?
Yeah. We're looking at where we are now. We're looking at Spain. so I'm looking at that Spain. That's why I want to go there, because my children, we want to learn Spanish. My children want to learn Spanish. So I go, let's go to Spain, man. Let's go to the source. And my wife's an artist, so there's a lot of rich culture there where she paints. So that's what we're actually looking at in the last 24 hours. It's real. But I'm going to do an epic adventure with either one or two of my sons. A big motorbike trip through Africa.
Okay.
So but man, my mother's Scottish. We're looking at Scotland as well. Man, hey, when you go down the path and give yourself permission to dream, man, because you have dreams, that's not my purpose. But Jesus, when you get on your dream train and start, it fuels your purpose, man.
So it's really incredible because when you talked about adventures, I wasn't sure you were going to talk about travel, but that's cool because that provides a great sense of adventure. And what's so amazing in today's environment is you can work from anywhere. You know, we got a computer, you could get on and you could be teaching your Man Alive program wherever you're at, right?
To be honest, Rob, I haven't worked in years. Man, you know, I refuse to work. Unless my heart is all the way in it, man, I'm figuring I ain't doing it. Somebody else can do that job.
Yeah. So what are you doing all day long? You're sitting in Malta in this 200-year-old castle. You got kids running around. What do you do all day?
A Man Alive experience, man. Oh, really? What day is it? Yesterday or the day before, I went to an island called Camino. There's only one man that lives on the island. So I was looking at, I was actually researching because there used to be a lot of pirates in this part of the world, and they would actually come and steal, they were slave traders. They'd come and steal a lot of the Mediterranean people and make it a slave. So I was talking to a historian. That was yesterday or the day before, I don't remember. And this morning, man, I've just been having some quiet time. I've been relaxing and enjoying, man, this extraordinary life, you know. A lot of men are overworked, stressed out, just at wit's end, you know. So, man, you got to enjoy this life.
Yeah, so you're inspiring, man. You're teaching them, you're helping them catch this internal almost spirit to come alive. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so how does someone get a hold of you? How does the men listeners, or I actually have a lot of female audience. I'm guessing that they have men that probably should listen to you. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, I would say the best thing the easiest way would be is, you can go to Gavin Topp on YouTube, but just grab one or both of my little books, you know, the Rite of Passage for the Modern Man or the Man Alive ebook, and just go to Gavin Topp, GavinTopp.com. That's the easiest way to do it.
When this goes live, we'll have that in the write-up so everyone will be able to access and get a hold of you. In the future, how do you see your Man Alive program growing? What do you want this to be? What's your vision?
Well, my vision is that it would be in every household. That when I've got 5 daughters, you know, so I'm very particular. I've done a lot of research. What do I want? What is the process for a man when they comes to take one of my daughters out? So I say, well, I've got a series of questions that I ask them. You know,
okay.
One of them is, has your character been tested? And there's it's amazing, particularly when I'm back home. I mean, I've got a property back home. I've had a boxing ring in the middle of it. I love it, man. I get them to test themselves out, but
someone comes to date your daughter and you want to see how they can fight?
Yeah, I have done that. Yeah, I've probably had 3 times. It's been good.
Okay.
Is that so we've actually got men treating women like gentlemen. Men conducting themselves with character, with purpose, with a crystal clear vision of who they need to be. So they're living a life that actually inspires the people they love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, and certainly men need that. Now, for your daughters or for women, do you have a women's program yet?
No.
Nah.
Wait. I ain't built that way. We've been together since we've been teenagers, and man, I got to write one song. That's it. I'm happy with that.
All right.
We're all good. Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole idea. When you understand your purpose, you know what lane to stay in.
So for someone that a man in our audience that you know, they're not sure about this, they don't know, they don't really go read books yet. What one piece of advice would you give a man that just happens to turn into our Gratitude podcast?
So one bit of advice that I don't read,
Yeah.
Well, this gentleman, I totally understand. I tell you, that's where I made my books small, so men would finish them. Because I don't read. I'm more of an audio booker, podcaster, that's what I love. So, but I would say there's 2 questions that every man must answer. The question is, man, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? And am I enough? Is the substance in me good enough? Yeah, you've got to take action to find those things out, but you've got to do it with the right men.
Yeah.
And I mean, what I would say to a lot of men I would say, have a look at who's around you. I talk about my Rite of Passage book. We need 3 men or 3 groups of men. We need to receive from somebody, a mentor, a coach, a father, somebody to show us the way. There's got to be that unconditional love, though. We need mates on the same page for that camaraderie. We've got to understand each other's purpose and mission. So we support each other. And the 3rd man, we need to be lifting somebody up. If we're lifting somebody up, that'll keep us less self-centered, got to be of service. We've got those 3 in our life, that'll get you to go the distance. And, if you can't read something small, that'll encourage you to follow what's in your heart. I think you got bigger problems. You're going to fight bigger waves, and that's what happens when you when you can't answer these questions. Speed humps turn into stop signs.
Well, Gavin, it has been such a pleasure. I'm looking forward to doing this program with my son and learning things from you. You're an amazing man. You're obviously lifting up a lot of people, and I appreciate you. So thank you very much for your time here. Any final words from you to our audience?
Can we share this podcast? Rob's amazing. He's done amazing work. Support Rob. Introduce people to Rob. He's a champion. Love you, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Have a beautiful day and a beautiful season there in Malta, and then Spain coming up soon. I might come visit you there this summer.
I'm here.